Hi folks, this is Franco Tonelli and this is Science of Singing. Today's subject is choosing a right teacher, choosing the right voice teacher. It will be not exaggeration if I say that choosing the right teacher for you is as difficult as vocal technique itself. I will try to pinpoint you at the teacher I would be looking today if I were a student. But before, let's look at the different aspects of voice teaching and understand why it is so difficult. One of the most important aspects of teacher-student relationships are psychological. Simply speaking, it's personality of a teacher and a student. They have to match. If there is psychological incompatibility, no matter how good a voice teacher is, psychological incompatibility will be the most difficult thing to overcome. Sometimes we choose teacher by the way the teacher sang. If we know that the teacher was a good singer, then we're almost 100% sure that he is a great teacher, and we choose teacher upon his singing technique. It's okay if a student thinks that way, but it's very dangerous when a great singer thinks the same way. Since I'm a great singer, I'm automatically a great teacher. From technical standpoint, it's important also for every individual to understand what type of approach teacher uses. Number one, pure empirical, meaning very little theory, just do as I do, sing as I sing, feel as I feel. This is pure empirical approach. Lots of cliches, lots of unscientific notes. The method of the particular teacher very easily can be a pseudoscientific. If the teacher is a smart guy and tries to generalize his own personal sensations into rules and then to make it a method, claiming that this rule is going to work for everybody. This is called pseudoscientific approach. It could be a vocal coach approach. Vocal coach in a way, constant feedback, for example, make it round, make it brighter, make it more substantial, and all this kind of words that don't mean anything to you personally. No demonstration of the voice, just correction of a student. Number four, teaching voice technique through sets of mechanical rules. That I call method approach. Be your own teacher approach. And this is not only for those who don't have teachers. Any student that is jumping from one teacher to another, taking 1, 2, 3, 4 classes in hope to find a true great approach to singing are basically self-learning. They don't learn from any teacher, because you cannot learn whether it's a good method or a bad method. You cannot learn from anyone just taking a few lessons. So basically when you take few lessons, you're learning yourself. You don't have a teacher. And then we have, based on true experience and based on true science approach, that I call myself an appoggio. Please don't mix it up with Italian word appoggio, which simply means support. I also am going to give you some written definitions at the end of this lesson, so you can look upon them and compare to your knowledge. Number one, why to take this psychological thing so seriously? Well, let me tell you that a singer without great confidence is no good for the stage. To learn how to sing and to learn great technique is not enough for you to become really a great singer. You also need guts, confidence, to go on stage and sing without fear. That's why some great singers, they can discourage a young singer very easily. If your personality is still weak, your vocal personality is fragile, if you get a teacher like this telling you forget about singing and do something else, you might lose all your confidence in you. You'll never recover from it. So that's why it is very important for a teacher to be a good psychologist. On the other hand, not necessarily complimenting students all the time. How pseudoscientific methods arise into being? That's a very interesting question. Those pseudoscientific methods are based on a successful singer who later in his career is trying to understand how did he do it, and then more or less accurately he can describe it in sensations. These sensations, or his posture, for example, I stand like this and never like this, and I open mouth like this, my tongue position is like this. So everything is taken into consideration and naively projected into some kind of objective truth. That's one of the reasons that pseudoscientific methods are coming into being, because we personally believe in what we do. I believe in my technique. So if you're a singer, you also believe in your technique. And we might have different sensations. And for stupid reasons, we can fight over them, not realizing that sensations are simply our personal subjective sensations. They could be similar somewhat, but they are subjective sensations. And if you don't have an intelligence to understand that, I think you should not be teaching voice. Now let's speak about voice coach approach, as I mentioned in number 3. Voice coach lesson usually is conducted by the older singer who cannot show you what to do, doesn't want to show you what to do, or simply a pianist who had experience with other singers and now is coaching a vocalist to be a successful singer. I have great doubts about this approach. As I mentioned before, there are exceptions, and I'm not putting every pianist coach into the same basket, telling that they all should not be teaching voice. In my experience, I can tell you that out of 1,000 coaches, you might find only one worth taking in consideration. Sometimes this approach can be very fruitful if the student likes basically to learn himself and to have feedback. And then in this case, this non-singing, not showing approach can be quite good for particular singers. Methods. There are some singers, or teachers rather, that claim proudly, oh, I know this method. We'll be naming the names of the method. No, let's say Meloki. I know this method, Meloki. This is very dangerous, because methods without a great vocal ear, and how would you know that your teacher has a great vocal ear, especially if he is not a singing teacher? If he never sang or his singing experience is very little, he would not know, but instead he proudly claims that he has a method, and everybody's thrilled. And let me say it again. To teach by the method rules is to teach mechanically. It can be successful only if the teacher who teaches takes a particular approach, is open-minded, keeps his ears always open, and takes the sound as priority. Not a method as priority, but the sound as priority. We all know, as young vocal students, we want to touch a celebrity. We want to study, if we can afford it, from great singers who made themselves on this difficult area of vocal operatic stage. We like to have these teachers as our teachers. Great singers, in fact, may cause a great danger to young students. Universities, for their prestige, are always hunting for celeb singers to give them position as teachers. But you may ask, who, if not a great singer, can be the greatest teacher? That's a good question, and I will try to answer this question. Sure, a great singer can be potentially a great teacher if he takes seriously teaching and understands that he basically starts from zero. So that ambition to become a great teacher is his motivation. In that case, he will or she will probably become a great teacher. Unfortunately, the ambition of the great singer dies after he finishes his career. He or she simply doesn't have ambition to become a great teacher. He simply gets an easy job in a university who hunts for celebrity singers. They perfectly know that they can get an university job very easily. It's just a matter of fact where in Juilliard School or Manhattan or other prestigious schools. So the students whose ambitions were to get these particular celebrity teachers are happy. They talk about it, they talk about their maestros. For 3 years they're studying with these famous maestros, and then suddenly waking up and realizing, did I learn anything? Did I improve? As we are young, we somehow believe that if we just close to the celebrity, and especially if we are students out there, it's just automatically going to give us some kind of great technique, you know. And most of these celebrity teachers or say former singers' lessons are based on the stories of the operas, the incidents, what happened to this particular guy and the other guy. All the funny things, and the students are happy. They are just close to these particular guys. But guys, if you want to learn singing, that story is not going to help you. I forgot to mention about so-called confidence givers. Teachers who really don't teach anything, but they're nice, very nice to their students. They're communicative, they listen to their stories, they basically have another function as a personal psychologist to a student, but have no idea how to teach or what is the correct sound. Nevertheless, some students like that approach because we know that confidence is very important to a singer. Of course, even that method could give a certain results if you're really confident and you had a very abusive teacher before, even though he was a great singer or whatever, and then you finally find a person who gives you this, oh, you're great, your voice is great, you're gonna be a great singer, oh, I like it, oh my goodness, today you did much better than yesterday. And this is brainwashing. For some students you need to do that to kind of boost their confidence, but some teachers stay only on that level, confidence giving, nothing else. So basically you don't learn from them, you just have your vocal psychologist or psychiatrist. I would mostly recommend a teacher who takes a true individual approach. And now why did I emphasize the word true? Because, I mean, go to any teacher and ask him if he has an individual approach. And he will probably say, of course. And I teach this method, which is kind of contradicting to an individual approach. Anyways, everybody for commercial reasons today claim an individual approach. But is it an individual approach, what they propose? Let me give you some points where you can determine whether you studying with the teacher who takes an individual approach or just follows the method. Individual approach, regardless to the method, means careful study of the student's voice, learning and adjusting method to this particular voice and not vice versa. Very important that your voice is not adjusted to a method, but rather method is adjusted to your voice. This is true individual approach. It's very important to study your student's character and bring him to understanding his own voice, challenging his students with difficult vocal tasks, but not an expense on his confidence. This cannot be fulfilled, this individual approach, if the teacher guides his student through sets of these rules, disregarding his voice and his personality. Of course, teaching a method could be very subtle. For example, I might not necessarily tell you that I'm teaching a method, but you will soon understand that my approach takes a method approach because of the routine I'm taking. Always the same routine, always the same demands, always the same set of rules. That will give you a little tip about preconditioned knowledge of your teacher, who might claim individual approach, but with preconditioned knowledge it cannot be happening. Now, if you're a very young singer, you're confused to what I say, so then you're not giving me any advice. Where should I go? But you have to know one thing. Don't be naive. I know the one teacher could be famous for creating 1 star or 2 stars or famous singers, and because of this you're absolutely sure, oh, I'm gonna have this teacher because he's going to bring me to the same stardom, or at least I will become a great singer because he was successful with these particular students. This is a very naive approach. For this I can quote Louis Quilico, and I can quote other singers of how naively we think when we just think of a particular successful student and then this method working for everyone. My final advice is, if you really want to find a teacher that is great for you personally, you have to be very intelligent and you have to know what you want really. You have to be intelligent because after taking lessons with this teacher has to match your psychologically, mentally, intellectually, and in many, many other ways. Or the most important thing, if you see the progress in your singing, and it's not a brainwashed progress. What I mean by that, your teacher can tell, oh, yes, you're singing much better than 1 month ago, for sure. But you have to be objective about your progress. As I told you, it's useless to take less than 6 months lessons from. You can try, of course, to take a lesson approach with one teacher. You might not like him even from this first lesson, and I don't blame you if you don't take 6 months lessons with this particular teacher. That can happen, of course. But it is important for you to understand that the teaching is not just reading as many books as you like. Teacher is also a live person, and you need to find the one who both will bring you to success. And it could be one of those empirical teachers, it could be one of those scientific teachers, it could be one of the coaching pianist who never sang himself. Knowing the difficulties of this profession and learning voice in general, you have to take all these things into consideration. And of course, your success will be the most proof that you chose a right teacher. This was Franco Tanelli. Thank you very much.